Well, welcome to Office Hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success. So glad that you're with us today. Every Thursday, we open the doors to the virtual office and let you ask whatever you would like to talk about with business issues, technical issues, whatever it is. And so glad to be here again with you. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the agency trainer here and joined, as always, by Cory Miller, the chief evangelist for hosting.com. How's it going, Cory?
Okay, good. Agency cheerleader is what my title should be.
Indeed, agency cheerleader. I don't know how many of you folks know this, but way back in the day when I first found WordPress, it was through iThemes, which is the company that Cory Miller started. And it was through the training there at that iThemes was doing that I learned WordPress and really began to grow my agency well. So Cory's been an agency cheerleader from the very beginning. And really glad that he has moved hosting.com to invest in this kind of training for us in community. So it's really good. So we're both back from WordCamp US. So it was an excellent event. Many of you in the pre-show were asking about what was that like? And was there any hangover from the recent unpleasantness in WordPress? And I got to say, I didn't sense any, Cory. Did you?
No, I mean, for the one thing, which is it just felt like attendance was way down.
Yeah.
Like I was telling someone earlier, the first WordCamp US after COVID was San Diego, and it was, what was it, six,
Way
700
down.
people?
It was so low.
And I think the attendance this time was 1,100. And so that was the only, thing that I heard and felt there. But we had good times with
Yeah.
our agency dinners, which are always my favorite when you get a smaller group of people, cool people down for just dinner. I say small. We had what, 50 to 70 people at our dinners.
At least.
We had two
Just a
nights of
small,
those.
intimate gathering, right? Of 50 to 70 people.
Yep. But it felt smaller. And man, everybody's just so awesome looking around the table. So those are my highlights now, for sure. And kind of sad to leave Portland though, but excited about Phoenix.
Yeah. So yes, Melanie's saying a destination you want to visit. So it was announced at the end of WordCamp this year that next year would be in I just lost it. Phoenix. It was right there in Phoenix, Arizona. So Phoenix is wonderful. It's a fun city to visit. However, it will be in August, so it's going to be a bit warm. I do understand
Yeah.
they have air conditioning there, but yeah.
I thought you were going to say Fiji because
Oh,
Paul
Fiji
just said
sounds
Fiji. I thought you
great.
were like Fiji. I was like, well, that would be cool. Lindsay and
That
my
would be
wife would
really
probably not
cool.
like that unless she went along. But I think Phoenix is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
You're right about the heat, but Phoenix is an awesome city.
We'll be indoors most of the time.
Yeah.
It's an easy city to get to, and it's good. It is a great airport. But it was a wonderful event. The community vibe that I experienced was strong. Again, it was a low attendance, but great people, and I just didn't experience a dark cloud hanging over it like I was afraid that I would. Um, yeah. So I will bring up something I've been asked by a number of people, like, what was your biggest takeaway from WordCamp as far as sessions go? And I didn't attend many sessions. That's normal for me at a WordCamp because you can usually catch them after on the replay. And really, it's more about networking and seeing people and having great conversations. But there's one talk that I did sit in on, and I would recommend it to you. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. The YouTube replay is up for how and why Google search keeps evolving. This was one of the keynotes from Danny Sullivan. You may recognize that name. Danny Sullivan was a founder of Search Engine Land and Search Engine Watch. He's retired from the journalism world and is now working with Google. And it was a really, really good explanation of kind of start to finish the evolving trends in Google search, particularly this new, all the AI overviews and so forth. That's the ending piece of it. It was an excellent discussion, and there were some pointed questions at the end, especially in regard to impressions and click-throughs, and Google is stealing our content and putting the answers there. We're not getting clicks through and all these. I would recommend a watch. And what I'll tell you, the most impressive thing about Danny was not so much what he said on the stage, but what he said off the stage. Because that means, say what you will about Google, but that guy stood in the foyer and answered questions for 30 or 45 minutes after his talk. And I got to hand it to him for that. That was a class move. He understands that there is a lot of angst among content creators for, like what's, this this deal that content creators and search engines have had for 30 years now of we write good content, you send us to, you send the people to our content, it helps you, it helps us. It's this mutually beneficial ecosystem that's been created, and now AI overviews have broken that. And so he addresses it a little bit in the talk, but even more on the floor after. And basically the takeaway was, look, people want this. People want the AI overviews. And I got to say, as a consumer, if I'm looking for something, I love Google AI overviews. Like the answer is usually right there. And I don't have to click through and read and figure out. But as an agency person, it's really hard because what do you do with good content? His answer was basically Google's aware of the angst and they're working on a solution. I don't know what that means, but I think they're smart people, and they're certainly aware that if you're de-incentivizing the creation of excellent content, eventually the stuff to train the AI on is going to run out, and that's not good for anybody. So I don't know what the solution is, but they are certainly aware of it and working on it, whatever that means. Cory, I would love you to jump in on this one. One of the things we talked about briefly in the last office hours, after you did the from the floor, that was fun walking around. We talked a little bit about Rocket.net joining the hosting.com family. So if you folks aren't aware of that, last week it was announced that Rocket.net is now part of hosting.com. And Ben Gabler, the founder of Rocket.net, is staying on as part of the hosting.com team. So you want to talk a little bit about that, Cory?
Heck yeah. I have been pumped about this, known for a couple weeks now, and just excited because for a couple of reasons. But number one, Ben is high energy, and that's passion. And I got to interview him and Jess Frick, who I'll talk about in just a second, who is taking over as GM, general manager of Rocket.net. Those are two huge signals. Number one, Ben is going to be our chief chief product officer at hosting.com. Ben's been in hosting as long as Seb, Dom, Panos, who are part of some of our C-suite here. They've been in hosting before I was even thinking about doing stuff like this. But Ben comes in with a lot of depth and passion about what he does, but his framework syncs so much with me and Nathan's, I'd say, which is if you take care of the client or the customer first, that's the business model. You win, we win. And that's why we're doing agency success, why we brought in Nathan and do these things, because we want to be your partner. But if we start with you and your success, we're going to win. We're going to have the hosting. We're going to help you continue to build more. And it's a mutually beneficial thing. So hearing all that, which you've just seen, if you've been around, Rocket. Ben is not stopping, pausing. If anything, I think he's going faster. So I just emceed a town hall with one of our, part of our, we've got a global team. So we did one Tuesday, then today, and it's just him sharing with Seb, our CEO. And the third thing I would say is, so the dashboard for Rocket has been fully integrated as of last week into hosting.com, all of our WordPress products. So that was incredible to go. And then I heard him this morning say it took us 5 days. His team, our team, working together to get that done, get it out the door so that it has some of those things that we were building, we were gonna get there, but now we got them. And so him wanting to stay on, he is on the leadership team. His voice, his presence is already being heard now. And then second is Jess. So if you've been around WordPress for a while, you probably know Jess. She left Pressable a couple of months ago. And the LinkedIn post, I should find it, put it in here, because if you read that, if you just look at the comments when she was leaving Pressable, there's 150 comments in there, and you can tell her reach. She's done everything in hosting and WordPress. She was really the engine behind StudioPress, which you might have remembered and heard about. She was at Liquid Web for a while, and then Pressable. She's done, and probably a lot more I don't even know. She's been a friend for 10 plus years. So she's taking that team over. They're ran as a separate brand and team together with us. And Ben is still connected to both. But bringing all the cool things he did at Rocket, the DNA, the vision values over to hosting.com, that's a good signal for me. So that's why I'm excited. I hope you'll be excited. I was just talking to an agency owner right before I jumped on this. He said, well, I was moving to a site to Rocket when this all hit. Everything okay? And I said, the same thing I just told you here. Those are the reasons I'm confident. And I'll put a YouTube link in here too, where I got to interview him and Jess last week at WordCamp US. In addition to my floor segment, which I thought was fun. I hadn't got to do that.
Yeah, that was fun. We'll have to do that again for sure. And there's some great questions that have popped up just while you were sharing, Cory. So somebody suggests, hey, we should do a webinar on the value of switching to hosting.com. And that's what we're going to do the end of this month. So we're going to be talking about this agency blueprint live stream we're going to do at the end of this month. I'm going to drop the next links in the chat now if you would like to check those out. It's the agency success hosting blueprint. I'm going to talk about how to set up your WHM cPanel type server using all the tools that hosting.com gives you for your agency. But now also we get to talk a little bit about how does rocket.net fit into that? And you really can easily now create a hybrid of, some of your higher priority sites, put those on rocket.net, and your more basic sites can live on a virtual private server, a virtual dedicated server. We're going to talk all about that the end of this month. That's coming up on the 30th of September. So a few weeks away. Excellent stuff coming. Really appreciate all the conversation and questions there. One more quick thing I'll share. We're already about 15 minutes in. I'll make this quick. And that is, if you didn't see it already, it's on social media all over the place. But there is an offer now for Perplexity Pro, the AI tool Perplexity, the Pro version. If you sign up for it with the PayPal or Venmo account, you get a year free, which it's like $20 a month, and they're giving it to you free. Just make sure you set a reminder to cancel it if you don't want to keep it. It's $20 a month otherwise. The link is there in the chat, and you'll find it. I registered for it this morning. It's just another AI tool to play with, and it is no cost. So I would recommend jumping in there and grabbing it. We certainly did. Another quick note, I dropped in the link bundle for our upcoming live streams this month. We have coming up on next Tuesday, Daphne from the hosting.com team is going to be talking about an SEO health check for your site and your client sites. Daphne's done a couple of live streams now, I believe, and is really, really good. So join us for that one. I'll be talking about the power of recurring revenue coming up on September the 16th, and really how to build a solid care plan and sell that to your clients, which is a prelude to the more how-to piece at the end of this month with the hosting blueprint that we've already talked about. So excellent stuff coming up. And of course, all the replays are available on the hosting.com YouTube channel. That link is in that bundle as well. So anything else you have, Cory, before we jump into questions?
No, I'll get it out of the way. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Excellent. All right. So it looks like we currently have 8 questions in the list. And if you have a question to ask, the link to do so is there in the chat. We're going to start off with a couple of questions from Beth, the OG Beth. All right, Beth. Beth says, I've used the redirection plugin on several sites before I started using SEO Press. SEO Press has redirections included. To reduce the number of plugins, it would be better to use this, correct? I know you don't know all the plugins specifically, but are redirection plugins all that different? What makes one better than the other? Great question. So there's a couple of ways to answer this. And let me just, because I'm not super familiar with SEO Press, let me ask this question first. Is the redirection piece part of the free plugin, or is that a pro add-on? Yeah, I think it's a pro add-on. So in general, first, the fewer plugins you have, the better. I mean, just as a rule of thumb in general, that's a hard one even to say, because you could have one really poorly coded plugin that's worse than 70 plugins on your site, right? But just as a general rule of thumb, the fewer plugins, the better. So eliminating a redirection plugin for something included in SEO Press might be okay. However, just realize that if you're using the redirection features of SEO Press, that's going to lock you into that pro version. Meaning if you ever want to move away from that pro version to use something else, or just not use your tool anymore, then yeah, it's more friction to cancel that pro subscription. So just be aware of that. That needs to go into your decision-making process. For me, I would stick with the redirection plugin just because it's solid as a rock. I do not know also whether the SEO Press plugin has the kind of statistics that the redirection plugin does. I mean, and this is really part of your question, aren't all redirection plugins that different? And yeah, they kind of are. You get statistics over here, you get, the ability to import and export. What if you're going to use SEO Press, just make sure it's going to have the abilities to do that. So, does it have an export feature for the redirection? So if you want to move someplace else, it'll make that easier. Those are all factors that go in. So yes and no, right? Is it good? Maybe. Yeah. Okay, Beth, does that answer your question? And this is all part of that bigger discussion of choosing and sticking with a solid theme and plugin stack and having as few variances of that as you can. I can't tell you how important that is. And it's especially important if you have the tendency to chase the new shiny thing. There's always somebody saying they've got a better plugin for this or that, but it is much easier to manage a bunch of sites that have the same or a similar theme and plugin stack than it is if you have all kinds of different plugins involved. So just change slowly and make sure there's a good business reason for the change when you do that. All right. Thank you for that, Beth. One more here from Beth. All right. The homepage on Project Management for Profit, that's Beth's website, is going to change significantly over time as I launch more training materials, including the information in the hero section. So I have several versions I've created to use later. Should these be set to draft or publish so I get some SEO juice from them, whatever that means, even though there is no way to access them from the site, no menu option, etc. Okay, so Beth, the things on these other versions, are they available yet? They're not available yet. Then definitely you don't want SEO juice, whatever that means, for those pages, okay? Because what will happen is people will find that on your Google search, on a Google search perhaps, and click through to it. And now they're seeing something that's not technically available, right? So I would not publish them, or if you do publish them, then you want to make sure they're not indexed in your listing. So to do that, most SEO plugins have a way to do that. I'm sure SEO Press does. We've got Yoast SEO on this site, and the way to do that is, we don't have SEO, Yoast SEO on this site. That's interesting. It must not be activated. Well, down here, there's a drop down where you can set it to no index, right? So if you want to have it published, set it to no index so it doesn't appear on the sitemap. And if you're not linking to it, then probably it won't be found. The best thing, though, is just to keep it at draft. But then you have to remember to change the index. Yes, so correct. If you're worried about not changing the no index back, then definitely set it to draft and just publish it when you're ready. Because if you publish it, it will be in the sitemap that your SEO plugin creates unless you've set it to no index. All right, is that good? Okie dokie. Next up is Awesome Paul. Okay. Paul, oh my. I would love to hear opinions on how you handle this, as well as others. All right, folks, pay attention. Paul wants our feedback. I was looking through the file manager and noticed a fat 45 megabyte error log in WP Content or Plugins folder. Upon examination, it turned out a free plugin was causing a PHP notice 1,000,000 times. Yes, I can relate to this. Blah, 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 blah. Yes. Okay, this just-in-time thing is likely it's a PHP version incompatibility. And it's a notice. It's not a warning, like it's not an error. It's just a notice, but it's going to log it, which is annoying. The domain was triggered too early, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so it's poor code that's not up to date to the latest PHP standard. So you did some research. And by you, I'm assuming you mean you and your little friend, the AI tool, right? Did some research, submitted support, and life is good. Here's the question. This took a little bit of time, about 45 minutes. What option do you choose? A, this is billable to the client, even though they had no idea and probably don't care. Move on. This is part of care plan maintenance. C, why did you even bother at all with this? Ignorance is bliss. D, something else. Okay. It's not C. Okay. You should definitely be aware of error logs building up on your site. As you know, I've logged into a site and found hundreds of megabytes of error log, and that's not good for anybody. So as the chat seems to reflect, I also would select option B. This is part of the care plan maintenance. Yeah, and it's just part of the deal, right? It is very likely that you chose this plugin for the client anyway, right? So the client had no, the only thing I would, if the client, the only thing that might sway my decision to A from B is if the client insisted that this particular plugin would be included. I can't imagine that was the case. Either way, you probably allowed it and recommended it. So it's going to be B. Just move on. It's part of the stuff that we do. Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to weigh in? Is it mostly B? Anybody else have a different opinion on this? Ignorance is bliss. Definitely not C. All right. Paul, is that good for you? All right. We shall move on. Yes. So you chose B. I think that was the right choice. All right. Next up in the list is Alvin. Alvin, are you here? I don't see you, but we will answer in absentia. And if you have a question you'd like to ask, folks, just use that link in the chat. All right. If I could copy, that would be excellent. Here we go. All right, Alvin. Taking over a site built by another developer. It's using Beaver Builder and Beaver Themer and ACF. The client has a list of therapists, counselors, team page, and would like to add a search filter function based on specialties that a client may be looking for. You'll use tags and or categories. So does Beaver Builder have a filter function, or should I look at another plugin to add that functionality, like Grid Builder? Another thought was to switch it over to Cadence theme and use Cadence Pro and rebuild that specific page with Cadence and use the Query Loop Builder. The rest of the site will remain using Beaver Builder. So Alvin, either of those are good options. I would recommend not mixing Block and Beaver Builder just to keep the site all in one thing. It would certainly work. But now you've got to remember this one page is in the block editor and you might click the Beaver Builder editor, which mess everything up. There's room for error there. So I would try to keep it in Beaver Builder if you can. Shanta's saying, doesn't ACF have its own filtering? It does. Well, it does, but I don't know that there's a Beaver Builder module that will do that out of the box. So if we, for example, have a grid of posts like this therapist list, right? And you want to filter by category. We use a Power Pack module for that lets you filter by category. I do not believe the core Beaver Builder posts module does that. So if you don't have access to Power Pack or the Ultimate add-on for Beaver Builder, then I would say, maybe lean toward, otherwise you have to buy something for this, right? And that's kind of crazy. So you could use Grid Builder, definitely, especially if you already have that plugin. It's great. We love it. Or you could certainly do it in Cadence with the query block. Yeah, the query loop block. So, Alvin, hopefully that answers your question. And yeah, anybody else have suggestions for Alvin? Jeffrey's suggesting Search and Filter Pro. Yeah, and Search and Filter Pro is another. There's a number of these. Facet WP is another one, like Search and Filter Pro, like WP Grid Builder, that do this similar thing. Grid Builder really works well with Beaver Builder. Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, good luck on that, Alvin. If you need more texture on that answer, just let us know next week. All right, 4 questions left, and Gene is up next. If you've got a question to ask Link is in the chat. Okay, Gene. Hey, Gene. A website I did not build, but do perform some maintenance on is hosted on network. Oh, it's hosted on Network Solutions? Ugh. It is having many outages every day. That's because it's probably poor shared hosting. I'm trying to determine the cause of the outages and make a case to the client to move the site to my full management and hosting. Are the outages caused by lousy hosting and something that can be rectified, or are they caused by the site, plugins, or something else? Here are the details. All right, so it's something in backup, buddy. It's a cron failure. The PHP is outdated. There's also a recent plugin vulnerability for WP Templatera. That's a name. But it's the site's running on WP Bakery, which is also awesome. Backups are scheduled to run, but only once a week. There is no cPanel access or PHP variable management built with WP Bakery. Wow. Okay. This sounds like fun, Gene. Wow. Okay. So yeah, so as Stacy always beats me to the punch here. So excellent suggestion, Stacy. The issue here is Network Solutions, as I understand it, like they are white labeling somebody else's cheap shared hosting, right? And it's going to have issues like this. There's just hosting is cheap on shared servers because they're piling thousands of servers or thousands of websites onto a single server. And there's just generally going to be resource issues from time to time, even in the best managed shared environments. There is there's a time and a place for shared hosting, just like there's a time and a place for the little smart cars, right? But if you want to haul a trailer, that's not the tool for the job. So if this is a legitimate professional website for an organization that wants to be seen, if they're a legitimate professional organization or business, they need hosting that aligns with that. And so the best way in my thought, is security. So PHP 7.4 has not been supported in years, like years and years and years. And that's a problem. And if you can't update it, they're just waiting for a problem to occur. So migrating the site, and then when you try to elevate the PHP version, you may run into issues with some of the plugins that were chosen there. And at that point, it's a good case for rebuild the site. But I think that security is the first discussion to have with the client. It's on a version of PHP that literally end of life for PHP 7.4. Well, yeah, it's coming up on 3 years ago that it reached end of life. So that is the issue. Who knows about this theme and plugins? We do have one ancient WP Bakery site that we still support, and it works on PHP 8.2. I don't know about the theme though, but all these curl, blah, blah, all this stuff, WP cron, this is the timeouts. That is most likely a resource issue on the server. It's likely the client's going to have to spend more money to go with you. But the issue is, and I've even gone to a client and said, I cannot support this site anymore. It's out of, you've reached end of life on the theme or or plugins or hosting. And, when I take a site, and this is the discussion, right? The reason clients want a care plan is peace of mind. They want to know that the site is going to stay healthy and working and so forth. And they want to know they can reach out to you and get an answer to a question. This is why clients purchase care plans. It's not about gigabytes and all these things. It's about trust and peace of mind. So I've come to the point to talking to a client to say, I can't look you in the eye and tell you that I can keep your site safe anymore. And this is a problem. We won't be able to support the site past a certain date. And so, that's the discussion. If you want your site to be healthy and be available, and it's going to take a little more investment on your part. Yeah. What is the curl error fail? There's no telling, right? It's a curl version that may be curl is built into it's part of the environment. And so if the environment is old, this is likely an old version of curl that picks up and carries on some of these cron type jobs, or it helps the server do things. I'm oversimplifying it to the point of being wrong. But yeah, it could just be that it's this super old environment and you can't support it anymore. Okay. Gene, does that help? These technical issues often lead to a larger business a larger business discussion of what kinds of sites are we willing to take in our care plan? Is it worth the hassle of managing a site on somebody else's environment that we can't control and keep consistent? It's very, very difficult. I would say borderline impossible to grow your business if you're not controlling the environment these websites are hosted in, because there's always going to be weird stuff that pops up. But if all your sites are hosted in a singular environment that's up to speed and managed, and it's good, you don't have as many problems. Then when you do have an issue, it eliminates a lot of the guesswork that's environment related. We'll talk about some of this again in that agency success hosting blueprint later this month. Great question, Gene. Thank you for that. I have a client who wants me to change the WP content directory's name to files for security reasons. They have a website that's been up for many years. Is this a good idea or bad idea? Okay. So David, are you here? I think I saw you earlier. Yeah. So you can't change the content directory, but you can change the uploads directory. Is that what they're after? So it would be site.com/WP content/files instead of uploads. Is that the issue? Or are they, I don't think you can change this WP content without a lot of potential issues. There is a constant that will allow you to change the David, you're saying, by the way, David, you're only chatting with me instead of everyone, which is fine. But if you want everyone to see your chat, just flip that hosts and panelists to everyone. David says, I did some research and you can change the WP includes and content directory names. You can, but like, here's the issue. This, by the way, is the constant that goes into your WP config if you want to change your uploads directory to something else. And this used to be recommended or suggested as part of security by obscurity, kind of like changing the login link. That really doesn't work anymore. Today's hackers are much more sophisticated, and they can find these directories in other ways. So this is a security by obscurity tactic, and it was great for WordPress 10 years ago. Great-ish for WordPress 10 years ago. It's really not an issue today. So I would push back against that a little bit. If they want you to do that, it looks like, I've never tried to do that. It looks like, based on the chat, that it is possible. And David, you've researched and found that it's possible. What you have to worry about in this case is what happens if plugins or something else working on your site has a problem with these new locations. Hopefully in the code, it would update it globally where, themes and plugins realize this is the new folder for these things rather than WP includes, WP content. However, there are some themes and plugins that hard code those values, and it could create issues that you're not aware of. So I would recommend against it if at all possible. If the reason to do this is for security purposes, I would argue that that's not an effective security tactic these days. 10 years ago, maybe. Today, it's really not an issue. There are plenty of other things that need to be addressed before this file folder change. Because if your hosting environment is set up correctly, they're not going to be able to access things in there that they don't need to access. If you do this, like if the client is insistent that you change this, I would get it in writing in an email thread or somewhere to let them know that this is important, any issues that you experience because they've insisted on changing these names is billable. Like it could be that 6 months from now, some weird thing happens and it takes you 4 or 5 hours to figure out why this isn't working. And it comes back to this, folder change issue. That should be billable time because you're recommending them not to do it. Does that help? Yeah. I don't think you can make a case that changing these folder names is super important for security. Yeah. It's a great question, David. Thank you for that. All right. We are down to the final 3 questions of the day. If you probably have time for a few more. If you'd like to ask a question, the link is there in the chat. In a full site editing WordPress site, can I copy, rename, and use parts, patterns, and templates from one block theme to another? You should be able to. Yeah, matter of fact, I mean, let's just jump into this demo site here that's in the block editor. When you open up this list view, you should just be able to copy that whole block. And it's going to grab everything in it. And as long as, like this is a cadence block row layout, as long as cadence is on your other site or a part of, as long as you're using cadence blocks from theme to theme, for example, you can copy and paste from one to the other. All of this, this is just code, right? So like you can look at this page and this, it's a bunch of, wow, that's a lot of stuff. But you can just copy and paste this stuff. And as long as, the only time you would get an issue is if for some reason there are block specific pieces that aren't in your new, like they're in one theme, but not the other. But a good theme is going to put that stuff in a plugin rather than a theme, right? If it's blocks, block specific things like this. So, that's why they've made full site editing this way, because you can jump into the pattern browser and look at global, like you pull in blocks from external sources and so forth. It's just code. So you can absolutely copy and paste it. Now there may be, as soon as I say that, there might be some weird case where that's not possible and the theme developer has kind of locked down this stuff for whatever reason. But in general, yeah, you can just go right here in your list view, click the option button or the kebab menu here and click copy, and you're good to go. Yeah. Great question. Okay. Has anyone tried using Cadence AI to rebuild a website? A new client has a site in Divi and we're going to rebuild it. I was wondering about entering the URL of her current site and asking it to build a new site using the content from the old site. I might give it a try on a staging site and just test it out, maybe try with ChatGPT. So Doris, you could certainly try. The level of success you will have, I don't know. Anytime I've tried an AI site builder, I end up having to delete more things than it takes just as much time to build it, right, as it does to delete things or rearrange things or whatever. So I don't know, if you've got a site already, I would probably just build it out. That's me. It's certainly worth a try. Like you can spin up a quick staging site, drop in your Cadence stuff, go through the AI and see what it does. And you may find that it works just fine. That would only take it wouldn't take long to know whether it works or not. Probably less than 30 minutes, I would imagine. Right. But yeah, it's okay. Right. Cadence AI is not like a revolutionary thing to end all things. It is a very clever way to build a website. But like I said, as you know, this WP Nathan site is one of the Cadence AI deals that we just threw some stuff together. And there's a lot here that you would probably want to change. Right. So it becomes the discussion of, is it better to just build it? Or, should I live with the AI stuff and try to change it? I don't know. At some point, it's going to be better or worse to do one or the other. Certainly try. Karen says she's watched someone do it and it took 3 minutes. Give it a try. Will it build the site? And this is the thing with all AI tools, right? It's almost like the perceived simplicity of the task is inversely proportional of the output you get. Like it seems like something so simple. Just rebuild this, and it's a mess. Who knows? Give it a try and see what happens. Thank you, Doris. And yeah, report back and let us know how that goes. Yes, Karen is on impersonating Jamie again. We had a good laugh about that last week. That was great. Okay, so Karen, I'd love to know what tech stack you recommend for performance. It's an area I definitely need to improve in. I use bricks with ACSS and frames. So tech stack for performance. I mean, bricks is excellent for performance. If you're in bricks and you like it, stick with it. It's if I was going to start over, I talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago. If I was starting over today, I would really look at bricks. But because we're in the stack we're in, there's not enough business case for us to move right now. Even though people on my team would really like that. Yeah, I think you're in a great stack right there. If you're experiencing performance issues, it's definitely worth exploring an optimization plugin like WP Rocket, and make sure your hosting is really good to begin with. Yeah. You're on good hosting. Yeah. So are you experiencing performance issues, Karen? Interesting. And this is performance it's such a thing, right? So there are many factors in what leads to site performance. The single biggest one of all is what's on the page. So, so first of all, Jamie, I'm sorry, Karen, is it mobile speed you're having an issue with, or desktop speed? Desktop, really? That's interesting. Are you using an optimization plugin like WP Rocket or Lightspeed or one of the other millions of Perf Matters, all of those? Is there caching set up? Okay. So I would look at your settings on your optimizer, because it could be something as simple as you got to push JavaScript to the bottom, or there's no page caching happening. That can severely impact page speed. Also, what are the things on the page? Are there videos on the page? That sort of thing. Are the images on the page the right size? A lot of that can impact your site speed. Seraphinite Accelerate. I've never heard of that before. Is that a free plugin? I've never heard of that before. Anybody using Seraphinite Accelerator? Oh, it's an expensive plugin? Interesting. I've never heard of it before. It has 50,000 installs from the repo, though. That's interesting. I've literally never heard of this. That's interesting. So I would make sure that the settings that you have on that plugin are really good. It looks like it does browser caching. Yeah, interesting. So I don't think it's your stack. It could be the actual, let me ask you this, Karen. Would you be willing to share a URL? We can just take a quick look at it. There may be something that we just see right off the bat. Okay, souldriventarot.com. That's not it. There we go. Okay, so scrolling. I don't see anything that looks egregious. Okay, there is a video. You might try. So this is a directly embedded video. We'll run a speed check in a second, but I don't like ever putting a actual YouTube embedded video on a page. In most tools, I think Bricks as well, you can have like a light box with a thumbnail of the video there. That's better because it's loading a ton of code here. That's one thing, but I can't imagine that would make it. All right, so this is a great example of how to do a quick page speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a guest profile This is the best way to get as clean of a page speed as possible in a guest Chrome profile. Right click and inspect, go to Lighthouse, and we'll do first desktop performance and see what we get. So something else, by the way, if you're doing this in your regular browser and you've got any browser extensions running, that can impact your time. Yeah, see, I'm getting 100 here on just a naked test. So this looks about, I mean, this is as good as it gets. So this is great. Let's look at it on mobile. So GT metrics is great. However, might as well do it from Google. And you're getting a 90 on mobile. I don't think you have anything to worry about here. You've got a little cumulative layout shift that you might want to look at. It's probably some CSS is loading late. What's shifting? This is shifting. Probably these icons are loading late. The little checkboxes. Yeah, 2 of them. And it's making it shift a little bit. But even this is not bad. And you're getting a 90. It's really hard to get mobile sites this high. So I would say, good job. Congratulations. The other thing I'll say is this. Soapbox, okay? Website speed. Is it important? Sure. Is it the end all be all of all the things? No, absolutely not. It's like one piece of Google's algorithm. The most important thing, like the people trying to tell you that you've got to get 90 or 100 on all your websites in order to do well on Google, those are people trying to sell you something related to speed optimization. Okay. It's, unless you're getting like super crazy low speed scores, or you're in a highly competitive market where, the little bit of extra speed is what's going to bump you up in the search results. Those are the only cases where I would really look real hard at the speed stuff, because look, it's website speed is just one teeny tiny factor in your overall Google search algorithm. And one of the other big takeaways that we took from Danny Sullivan's talk was just write great content. It's the same thing we've been saying for years. Just write great content and don't worry about all these other little things. Speed is important if you're highly competitive or if it's super slow, but otherwise, if you've got the right content, that's going to be what you're after. Shanta, how do you tell the clients that have been told about getting those numbers that it's not that important? It's a great question, right? So you go to Google EEAT, right? That's their thing here. EEAT, helpful, reliable content. Where is it they explain this acronym? Anyway, if you look into this deserves a full live stream, actually. But if you look at all of the criteria, it's much more about the reliability of the content than it is the speed that the page loads. Yeah, they believe they get there because of the numbers. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. And we work with some SEOs that are, they're so focused on the speed issue. And is speed a factor? Yeah, but it's like this much. It's not the gigantic thing that's going to shoot you to the top of the rankings, which rankings don't even really exist anymore. And they're based on each individual searcher. It's complicated, right? But, should you be concerned about speed? Yes. Should you lose sleep over it? Probably not. Probably not. Okay. Ending of soapbox. All right. Final question of the day comes from Jeffrey. Thank you for asking that question, Karen. All right, Jeffrey, let's see what we have here. After doing your updates, is there a set procedure for how much of a website you check to make sure nothing is broken, or do you rely more on the client to reach out to you if they find something? In other words, how much time do you put into inspecting the site after updates? That's a great question. Okay, Jeffrey, here's where I fall back on a repetitive theme that we keep coming back to on this live stream, which is having a similar tool stack for all of your sites. If you're in a good tool stack with, making up a number here, 90% of the plugins on a site are ones that you use on lots of sites and they're trustworthy and it's good code, you're probably not going to have to worry about sites breaking. We don't experience that issue very much. Like, Chris, if Chris is on here, he can tell us. Chris from my team is here, and he's gone. He logged off. Chris would probably tell you that it very, very, very rarely happens. And in those cases, generally, we do ask, the client is responsible for letting us know of any errors they see on the site. That's in the contract, by the way. And you should have that in your contract, would be my recommendation. On the other end of that, we use a tool called HexaWatch that looks at websites for changes. It's a visual regression testing. And so we have a page on a site that is not it's set for no index that we look at. We point our visual regression tool at that page to let us know if something's broken and there's like an error, or if the header or footers are something's broken, we'll get an alert about that. But I can't remember the last time that happened. It just, the most common issue on that is it's really not even the theme and plugin update as much as it is something weird happened with the browser cache or with Cloudflare caching and the CSS file or something like that. And that makes the site look wonky. And it's not even really the update that caused it. It's the caching. And we pretty well got that hammered out as well. But I can't remember the last time we really had a plugin that broke the site. How do you HexaWatch? So this is something we grabbed on an AppSumo deal a long time ago. There are other tools. I'm not sure I would recommend this one as the final solution, but it does work. I don't even know what the pricing is because we got a deal on it. But HexaWatch, it works fine. There's other tools that do it. And also, some of the managed hosting platforms do that as well. All right. So the answer to your question is we don't spend a lot of time doing that. All right. Well, folks, that is the end of the questions. Really do appreciate you hanging out with us today. We are right at the top of the hour. Anything else? Quick last minute question for anybody? Just drop it in the chat if you'd like to. But otherwise, it's been a great week. It's good to be back in the swing here after being gone for a week. And I'm looking forward to this month of live streams. If you came in late and you missed this link bundle that I just dropped into the chat again, you will find SEO Health Check coming up on Tuesday. The Power of Recurring Revenue coming up the following Tuesday, the 16th, and the Agency Success Hosting Blueprint, where we'll talk about how to set up your sites for success using the hosting.com platform, both our virtual private and virtual dedicated servers, and now rocket.net as an option as well. So a lot of fun stuff. All right, folks. Well, let's draw it to a close here. I'll see you back here on Thursday of next week for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.